shitty whip driving, lame ass motherfucker.
You see this guy right here? This is Wes. Wes did 10 years in prison, but thankfully, like Jordan Belfort, also known as the Wolf of Wall Street, and Sheldon Johnson, who appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast, he saw the error in his ways, and since his release, he's been on the straight and narrow, or so he says. In reality, like Jordan Belfort and Sheldon Johnson, they all went back to what they were doing beforehand.
Police say Sheldon Johnson killed a victim at the victim's apartment in the Bronx.
The price of going to this event is $24,000.
In Wes Watson's case, the only noticeable change when he came home was his hairline. The temperance and immaturity he had going in remained the same coming out.
Smoking weed, you're up. You've been doing it a year? Shut the up. Shut up.
Additionally, he came back with added lies, alleged scams, and overall, he seemed to have worsened, if that's even possible. I first really got familiar with Wes Watson when I watched his most popular video, Prison Gangs, You Have No Choice. Now, if you have some background on this guy already, you might be wondering how he even has followers, but this video was actually really interesting. Although I enjoyed the video, it seemed almost as if he was glorifying prison, and almost wearing it as a badge of honor. Right away, I don't have to get into detail as to why that's not something you should be proud of, and it's actually really weird. Think of your favorite gangster rapper. They talk about getting out of prison and beating the odds, and during their interviews when they're asked about their time in prison, they'll generally be pretty matter-of-fact about it, especially people who are already known to be savages. They don't need to get into excruciating detail about what went on in prison for obvious reasons. But for Wes, not only did it seem like a badge of honor to him, it almost seems like something he's proud of. Like someone's grandpa telling war stories, he almost has a sense of honor. Naturally, I want to see the nature of his charges and the details of him being locked up. This is all a very compelling story and genuinely made me feel some respect for him. This lasted until I found out every word out of his mouth was a lie. Before we get to that, there is an entire side of YouTube that's dedicated to ex-convicts giving their stories about their time in prison. There's people who tell entertaining stories, some who look at it through a spiritual lens, and really anything you'd want to know about prison is contained in this subset of YouTube. One thing these YouTubers all have in common besides, talking about prison, is that they all think this guy is a phony.
This dude, if I had to draw a cartoon of what an inmate is, it'd be Wes Watson. It's over the top. I even had a YouTube channel get a hold of me today, and he told me, and it made total sense. This dude is, when you watch Wes Watson, it's like watching the movie Get Hard. It's the same thing.
Wes Watson has far more subscribers and notoriety than a lot of them, but that very obviously has no bearing on how legitimate he is. If anyone would know the difference between a poser and a real one, it'll be these guys. And it seems the consensus is Wesley here is more of a performer than a tough guy. In a lot of these videos, they call him out for things that only people who are familiar with the climate of prison and the unspoken rules would be familiar with, and how they don't align with anything he said. I haven't been to prison, nor do I have plans of going there, so I can't really speak to that. What I'm more concerned with personally is why he was there and how long he was there for. Before that, have you guys ever heard of stolen valor? You know, when someone who's never been in the military LARPs as if they've served. Sometimes people do it to get some sort of benefit or because a lot of places offer discounts and benefits for veterans, but oftentimes it's simply to get respect and notoriety. Be looked at as a hero by stealing the respect we as a society give to our Army veterans, hence the name Stolen Valor. It looks like the former inmate community has their equivalent to this, and they don't take too kindly to people who pretend to be who they were.
Nobody could take that from us. Some of us have really ran prison yards. Some of us were really within a prison organization, gang. Some of us have had leadership roles. Some of us have really committed stabbings. Some of us have been in melees. Some of us have been the ones that called those green lights. This individual has been a fake.
Wes acted like he was damn near in Chorgon prison with Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda. He was such a well-respected threat that he needed to be locked up underneath the jail. But in reality, he was in a prison you can only really be in if you're non-violent. If Wes did the things he pretends to have done and really was a boss in prison, that would reflect in where they kept him.
All his prison history, all this stuff I'm talking about, he's been in Salinas Valley and all these yards and level 4s, and he's been on nothing but out-of-state prisons, which you have to have special requirements to be in these prisons. You can't just sit there and go there and being part of violence or whatnot. They're not going to keep you.
But my main focus isn't who Wes was before YouTube and social media. I just think it does hold some weight because, as we established in the saddest YouTube couple ever video, these guys who are career criminals typically don't change their ways. But Wes Watson only gets more obnoxious when you look into his rap sheet on YouTube. And unlike his prison stories, these ones are real. Looking up Wes Watson on YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, anything, you're inundated with videos of him scamming, lying, cussing out his paying customers, ghosting his paying customers, while at the same time flaunting his wealth that he's only afforded because he's taken the money from thousands of people. It's common practice for these fraudulent scamming gurus to have no wealth, portray wealth or general wealthy status, and then turn around and flex on the people who got them that wealth in the first place. It's pretty much an expensive game of the blind leading the blind, and there aren't too many people calling this out. Before we delve deeper into the rabbit hole that is Wes Watson, we gotta take a look at his video descriptions. That's where you'll find all of his courses, books, coaching calls, and his general scams. It's a mystery why anyone would go to an ex-convict who clearly hasn't changed his ways for financial advice, or really any advice at all. I mean, the guy couldn't avoid one of the two biggest things people are generally wanting to avoid in their 80 years on Earth. Only really second to death. But it seems that all it takes for some people is loud yelling in a big house. Anyway, once here, the first link is to his coaching. And no, I didn't misspeak. He coaches coaches on how to coach. The landing page video starts with him yelling at me over the cars he has.
It was all a dream, but it doesn't have to be. These are just a few of my cars, slips and all.
But then he proceeds to tell me it's not about the cars he has or the money he has, it's about helping others.
Tell you is it's not about that. It's about the impact you're making on others.
Wes Watson doesn't get his clients because he's so helpful, because he's not. He gets his clients from the illusion of success and wealth. The coaches that are coming to him for coaching calls aren't inspired because they're thinking, gee, this guy seems like he truly wants to help people and I do too. No, they're thinking this guy is filthy rich, I want to be there as well, thus they sign up. Another huge red flag is that he offers coaching advice to coaches of all genres. Whether you want to coach fitness or finance or life advice, hell, even if you want to coach him to coach you to coach others, he can help you. Once again, this is further proof that this whole thing is all about money and nothing more. Wes has no actionable skills besides maybe motivation, and even that can be summed up as a louder, angrier, roided out version of David Goggins. At least David Goggins has actual accomplishments and doesn't have a social media and business that revolves around money. He's actually trying to motivate and inspire, and the worst you could say is he shills his book. But at the price tag of $23, I'm not too mad at it. The next thing he's offering is actually free, so I'll give him points for that. I take all those points away once I sign up for the book and I'm forced to watch a 10-minute video of him shirtless, which is basically just a thinly veiled promotion and a funnel to his other courses in which he yells and spits on me.
How did you stay motivated? How did you stick to your goals? How did you keep that?
Predictably, the book is worthless. Basic advice like wake up at 8 AM, don't eat bad, meditate, and stuff you can find in any self-help book, but I won't rag on it too much because it's free. But I do find it funny that an alpha male is talking about signs you're operating at a higher frequency, like he's some sort of high school astrology girl. One last point is that it's no coincidence that none of these signs are anything tangible, because since this is a funnel to his other courses, he needs to make sure those reading this are all able to fall underneath this umbrella. So he couldn't put better performance at work as a sign, better body composition, or better relationships, because people probably aren't getting any of those results from his book, but they sure are getting perspective and oneness and things that might come after getting a motivational speech. Now, all that's left for you to do is sign up and pay him thousands of dollars. He also offers coaching calls for fitness and teaches people how to lose weight and gain muscle. Clearly the guy's in shape, but just like you can't look at the finished product and instantly trust the guy knows what he's doing money-wise, you can't do the same here with bodies. The consensus is that this guy is not natural. I mean, you don't need to be Derek from More Plates, More Days to realize that. Look at the sheer vascularity on this guy currently. That alone is enough to raise suspicions. This guy also doesn't even claim natural status because he'd obviously get called out. Just for perspective and to drive the point home, here's how he looked in prison.
Going back to the beginning of his Instagram, we could see the first picture of him here in 2015.
That is very attainable. He gained 20 pounds of muscle and is more shredded than before. Now, disclaimer, if you do take some stuff to enhance your physique, I don't really look down on that. In fact, Wes had a decent physique before prison, so he clearly at the very least knows how to put on muscle. I just think it ties together all the false advertising this guy does, and it shows it doesn't just extend to one area of his life. Furthermore, if you want weights and nutrition advice, there are people who don't have shady backgrounds and instead have degrees in this subject who you can literally watch for free and they won't verbally abuse you.
Excuses aren't valid, motherfucker. Why do you guys think anyone gives a fuck?
Given his extensive record of predatory sales tactics and questionable conduct, it wouldn't be a surprise if we found out Wes doesn't deliver on his promises. Fortunately, we don't need to rely on speculation. There's an abundance of negative reviews from his clients, and they're worse than you could imagine. Wes Watson's Reddit that originally started out as most fan communities do, you know, talking about the videos, the idea, the person they enjoy watching, has turned into an anti-fan haven, and I don't blame them. It's not like in the case of Low Tier Goddard where people just enjoy laughing at him. No, these people actually experience being scammed by him. They're not just trolls, they actually have personal issues that stem from them losing thousands of dollars to him. One story detailed how Wes Watson would get his competitors' profiles banned and grabbing people's personal info to scare them. He has actual proof of him working for Wes on his Telegram allegedly, so his word does hold some weight. That and the fact that I wouldn't put it past someone like Wes to do this makes me inclined to believe him. You've all heard of the saying, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I think every guy can attest to that being true, but I think the saying should be hell hath no fury like a scam victim scorned, because Wes eventually didn't pay this guy the $73K he was owed, and oh boy did he get revenge. Unlocked for life banned him. I have banned Wes over 15 times. He has stolen from multiple clients of mine. He's beat his ex-wife and her kids. He will be destroyed. This is the very first post of Wes that this guy posted. He's the one responsible for banning Wes' Instagram page, which is the biggest funnel to his scams. Now, I'm not condoning this, but I will say I'm not losing any sleep over Wes being banned relentlessly. Wes chose the wrong person to scam because he posted all of his information from his phone number to his mom's voice recordings, and as for that, let's just say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Your mom's a bag, all grabbing up everything for herself. I'm a minimalist.
Ironic, the big buff alpha male who's been to prison had to call his mom to defend him against bullies. The rest of his Reddit is filled with more of the same. Scamming testimonies, people discussing how his account got banned for the millionth time, just straight up accusations of Wes being gay. Yep, this is what Reddit's all about. In the videos of Wes's coaching calls, he's pretty much just yelling at his client, literally just verbally abusing them.
It's the life you could have lived. It's because my childhood trauma and shut the up. Shut up. Get to work. Why are you so negative, Wes? Why are you a...
As for the testimonies themselves, one reason that Wes was talking to a new client, and this new client asked a pretty fair question, especially for someone just starting out, and that was if he should weigh his chicken cooked or uncooked. Wes proceeded to tell this guy to give himself an uppercut. Now, this is funny to me, but I'm not the one paying thousands to hear this. In the course Wes gives you, you also get access to Wes for questions. And by that, I mean someone pretending to be him responds on behalf of him while he drives his $1 million cars. The same guy who witnessed Wes prompting his client to uppercut himself details a story of how when he had shoulder pain, a very common pain point for lifters who are just starting out, Wes then was gracious enough to send him a screenshot from Google of workouts to do to fix it. Thanks, Wes. I'm really glad I'm getting my money's worth. Wes thinks so lowly of his pay pigs that he couldn't even be bothered to copy and paste the text. The screenshot was just an insult to injury, pun intended. The next testimony was from a Reddit user who had a run-in with Wes. He details how in 2020, they weren't entirely sure what they were signing up for, but they went ahead with it anyway. It cost him about $750 for a month or two. I guess he had come across one of his videos and found the screaming, cussing, and lies inspirational, so he decided to join. They exchanged texts, and they ended up being a part of a group with around a dozen subscribers. They would meet on Zoom every Saturday afternoon, and Wes would start by yelling into the mic for a bit, just in case you weren't sure what you were there for. Then he'd call in each person individually. Every week they had to submit photos. Although they could message the coach through an app, he quickly learned that asking questions would often lead to insults. The workouts included a mix of burpees, weights, with a lot of air squats, sit-ups, and push-ups. He did say he got results from Wes, but really anyone could yell at you to start lifting and insult you for free. The guy even advised against using him and said ChatGPT would be a better option, stating just ask ChatGPT to put together a diet and a workout regimen for you. And if you don't have the motivation and feel like you need a drill sergeant from hell shouting at you, in that case go with Wes. He should also have added, and if you have $1,000 to burn, but I digress. Now, this next Reddit testimony is honestly quite sad. It's by someone who wasn't just looking for a diet plan and stumbled upon Wes. It was a genuine fan who was nearly scammed out of $1,500. And if you think this is the worst of Wes's deeds, buddy, we're just getting started. This is the foreplay. This testimony shows how predatory it is when guys like Donovan Sharp, the Saint and the Sinner, and this guy portray lifestyles of wealth and opulence, even when they don't have it. They don't just do it because they have huge egos. That's about half the reason. Other half is to get suckers like this. OP saw Wes, heard his story of starting from the bottom, about as down and out as you can get in prison, to then driving multi-million-dollar cars and owning these businesses. How could he not reach out to Wes? If he can make it, so can I, he thought. So, naturally, when Wes made an Instagram story advertising his business and coaching with a ton of testimonials from guys who are making money off it, this guy wanted in. Bear in mind, this guy had less than $3,000 to his name, around $3K left to spend on anything. He saw Wes as a wise business investment. Keep in mind, the price of the coaching is $3K. We can talk about how naive this guy is another time, but I think you can see where this is headed. He talked to Wes expressing his interest in joining, but he didn't have enough money. Wes, like the benevolent, kind, loving leader he is, he declined to take his last $3K and offered only to rob him of $1,500. So rather than telling this guy, hey man, would love for you to join my course, but take care of yourself first and come to me when you have more money saved up, Nope. Wes said, I'm leaving here with something, and took the $1,500. When it came time to be onboarded to the program by Wes, Opie actually texted Wes early due to time zone differences. Instead of seeing this as a reasonable mistake made by a paying client eager to learn, he yelled at him for bothering him and then punished him by making him wait another week. Over the course of the next 3 months, Opie would be blown off and have to reschedule calls multiple times. One time, when Wes was scheduled to call him, he got blown off so Wes could watch his girlfriend and her kids playing tennis. How did Opie know this, you ask? Because he posted it during the allocated meeting time. This is a level of brazenness and disrespect to clients that deserves to be called out. He eventually did get in contact with Wes after all the verbal abuse, ignored calls, and being down $1,500 with nothing to show for it. Opie was still displaying signs of Stockholm Syndrome and placating Wes, apologizing, being respectful, being understanding in the face of blatant lies. And in return for this, he got blown off once again. He also got told that he will not be getting a call until he gets to 3K. So that good gesture of accepting half of his last few dollars instead of all of it wasn't even real. He actually wasn't just leaving with something, he intended to leave with everything. Naturally, Opie got fed up and requested a refund, and of course, Wes wasn't going to make it so simple. He states that Wes on Trainerize, which is the app Wes uses for training, whether fitness or business, was entirely unaware of the conversation he had with Wes on Instagram, meaning that Wes's Trainerize is most likely operated by a team rather than himself, pretty much confirming that any coaching done outside of IG or video call is probably not Wes. A little bit of false advertising never hurt anybody. But carrying on, after he called out the fake Wes on Trainerize, his account was swiftly deleted. So left with no options, he contacts Wes support, and get this, he gets told he can't get a refund because 3 months have passed. You mean the 3 months he waited to get the product? That's like Amazon giving you a 30-day refund policy, shipping out the item after 31 days and saying, sorry pal, refund period is over. Yeah, because of you. Luckily, the story has a happy ending because Opie eventually reaches out to his bank, which made an exception that Wes was probably counting on not happening. I suspect he toyed with this guy for about 3 months specifically because he knew that banks usually don't accept chargebacks after 60 days. Something tells me Wes is very familiar with chargebacks and how they work. Like I said, Opie was given an exception because of the amount of money at stake. It's truly sad because these guys don't realize they're nothing more than $1 for these gurus, and the moment they cease to be $1, they cease to care about them, if that could even be said. There wasn't a happy ending for every story because YouTuber Luis Arevalo dropped a 35-minute video titled I paid Wes Watson $20K for coaching. This is what happened. Luis fell into Wes's trap the same way the guy before him did, through following him for entertainment, seeing his largely fake backstory and lifestyle, and the rest is history. He bought and tried every course from his weight loss to nutrition to his business to his coaching coaches course. You name it. He tried it. Luis loved him some Wes. In fact, even in this video, Luis takes a mature, forgiving, and honestly inappropriate tone if you ask me, especially for what he's talking about and the money at stake. And that's no knock on him, he's just a really nice guy it seems. But unfortunately for Wes, I'm not so nice.
But I'm gonna keep it real with you. I did the mastermind, I did the coaching, I did the program. It's not that Wes is a scammer, because he delivers a product, he delivers the service, right? You pay him money and he delivers you the coaching. However, here's the thing. There have been situations where people get into it with him and he just cancels their stuff and doesn't refund them.
Here he says Wes is not a scammer. He gives you a service. But Luis forgot to say that in the fine print it says, if you don't make him mad. Newsflash, buddy, that's a scammer. Look, you're allowed to turn away customers for any reason or no reason at all. But typically, you turn away their money as well.
I've also seen it happen one other time on a coaching call where he got into it with some guy. Because again, you guys know how Wes talks, so this person that he was speaking to got offended by the way he was speaking to him, and basically they got into it, started cussing each other out, and Wes just booted him from the program. Obviously didn't refund him his money.
He further goes on to recall another time he witnessed Wes Watson cuss out somebody who wasn't going for it and actually bucked back at Wes. But in Wes's world, he's the only one who can do the name calling, not the customer paying him and funding his lifestyle. Side note, this is a theme throughout the video, stay tuned. So in line with his actions prior, he kicked them out and refused to refund them. I'm pretty sure the first rule of business is the customer is always right and a satisfied customer can only be a good thing for you. But surprise, surprise, the ex-con who clearly learned nothing from his incarceration displayed low emotional maturity and long-term thinking.
This is me personally, I can't speak for other people, but I paid for 1 month of coaching, right? We only did one call. I went to the mastermind and then I did another 3 months of coaching, right? I paid for 3 months of coaching, $7,500. I only did one call. If you're paying for 3 months of coaching, I expect to get 3 months of coaching, but instead I got one call and that was it.
Like I said, this guy is really forgiving because this is obviously a scam. The ironic thing is this guy is 3 times the man Wes is when it comes to coaching, and it's a lot less superficial and pretentious, so it's clear.
That's what I'm about. The only man that I want to admire or aspire to be is like Christ. That's it. I don't care about any influencers. I don't care about anybody online. I'm not here to tell you guys how to live. I'm just here to show how I live. And if y'all choose to follow and be inspired by it, cool. If you don't, cool. But I'm not gonna sit here and insult you for not following the same path as me, for not getting up early like me, for not having, you know, the same mindset as me. That's on you guys. I'm just here to show you what's worked for me, my life, what's helped me keep my life in order, what's helped me stop drinking, what's helped me lose the weight. And if you guys choose to follow, great. If you guys choose to coach with me, great. If you don't, great. Like, either way, I'm on my path and I'm doing my thing. And I'm taking care of my family, and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing as a man of God.
Wes Watson's programs and coaching calls are a little past the place where he can stroke his own ego, yell and berate his customers, and probably blow off some steam while collecting thousands of dollars. If all the testimonies don't prove that, here are some actual clips of him from the IG Baller Busters who originally exposed Wes and his antics.
God, you don't even have any business. Shut up. Oh my God, should I just hang up, you guys? Oh no, if he has 6, he may have to opt out. A day of the week, like 7. Maybe if you had 7. 4 one-on-ones, and he talked about, I may have to restructure it.
At this point, if you're wondering if Wes is playing a character and this is just the style of coaching he uses because it gets him results, you'd be wrong, because Wes is like this off and on camera. Most popular display of this is Wes on all of his FNF appearances. FNF needs no introduction, but they have this segment called Money Monday. No one watches, but they pretty much do this so they can claim that they're helping people and they're not just a bootleg Jerry Springer. But Wes's first appearance was on a Money Monday, which I think should be renamed Mislead Monday or Misrepresentation Monday, because the guests they have on are literally all fake gurus and sometimes outright verified charlatans. When Wes was on, we got a little taste of his character, and it really can be boiled down to bragging about his life.
It's still a movie. Like, Miami's a movie. I've lived a movie my whole life. Like, other people don't live a movie. I've lived one long movie. Even when I was in prison, I stood back in my head and I just lived a movie. I'm like, okay, how's this gonna play out? Okay. Like, I'm always writing like this massive story. People don't live like that.
Guys, I think his life might be a movie, and that's followed by bragging about his money.
Like $2 million a year? The fuck is that? Like, I literally have $47,000 in recurring revenue daily, and every day I make 30 to like 150,000 extra every day. I make 30 to 150,000 a day in sales off everything that I sell, and then I have like 40 to 47,000 recurring every fucking day. I can make $1 million a month plus without doing one fucking thing.
Followed by outright lies.
Yeah, I'm probably one of the rarest people online because I answer all my fucking messages. If you go on my website, weswatson.com, the text comes through to me. I answer all my shit. I really sit there and help people through all their shit.
Yes, Wes, you do answer your texts, except once the person pays. Now they're liable to be ignored for 3 months. And even if they aren't ignored, they'll end up talking to a fake Wes when they're supposed to be being trained by you. And don't forget, he has to shill his course anytime he can.
You know, and I just started doing that to where now I sell a year of my mindset training for $40,000.
Now that was actually the tamest you'll see Wes in one of these interviews. The second out of 3 times Wes Watson was on the FNF podcast was during their live show. To say this is anything short of a dumpster fire would be an understatement. First off, the format is horrible. I don't know why anyone is paying to watch a circle jerk of guys who pretty much all could have videos done on my channel, but of course the subject here is Wes, so that's neither here nor there. The other person we will be focusing on is Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson is a conservative Christian guy who is pretty skilled in debate, but like a lot of guys FNF is affiliated with, including Wes, their actions don't align with their words. At any rate, FNF goes around the panel asking guys to define success. When we get to Wes, he has a straight yap session.
My definition of success is across the board. If you're not ripped, if you're not rich, if you ain't rare, if you don't stand out, if you ain't across the board successful, it doesn't mean fucking shit to me. If you got straight tits and you're in your Rolls Royce, you look like a fucking clown to me.
I think Wes's point, even though he said it like a psycho, is that in every facet of your life you want to be the best, which is something I can kind of get behind. He means physically, mentally, financially, financially, and anything else. He also said having a hot girlfriend is one of the metrics for success, as if women's beauty is what defines a relationship. But I guess he's on a Red Pill podcast, so that's kind of par for the course. But again, his main focus and point was money and fitness. Those seem to be the two you can't go without the most. Also, keep in mind for the future, he made fun of people who are out of shape when like half the guys on the panel are out of shape. The entire FNF team, who constantly makes fun of women for their weight, is out of shape besides Myron. And one guy who literally got a male BBL, but no one said anything. No one took it personal, just awkwardly listened on. After the 5-minute yapathon, it finally gets to Andrew Wilson's turn to speak, and it did not go well.
My definition of success will probably be far different than everybody else's on the panel. I'll probably maybe be the lone dissenter, but my definition of success is having a family, having children, and being part of the apparatus of the world. And true wealth is a rejection of materialism. As Christ said himself, what good does it benefit a man to gain the entire world at the cost of his soul? And essentially, when I think of wealth, I think of materialism. It's okay to have materialism. It's not against Christian ethics to become rich, become wealthy, but I just think it's all beside the point, ultimately.
He starts off by saying his definition will be different than others, and he also said he's looking at it through a lens of faith. So he puts family and being of benefit to society as a top thing that defines success. I think any well-adjusted person would agree with that. I mean, family is arguably what life revolves around. Having people who love you and love you back, will protect you and care for you in times of need and in your old age. It's also a great sense of pride and fulfillment when you created a family, as both Wes and Andrew have. And keep in mind, Wes was throwing thinly veiled disses at guys like Andrew, but yet Andrew just spoke broadly and even acknowledged he's not the popular opinion. As Andrew's speaking, you can see the rage bubbling over from Wes. It's almost as if hearing anyone not worship money and be driven by money at all costs got him angry. It all came to a head when Andrew Wilson said, "I believe it's all besides the point," in relation to the importance of money. That set him off. What ensued next was a relentless attack from Wes. That all started because a guy dared to say he doesn't worship money. With Andrew being a skilled debater and Wes being a skilled scammer, he just resorted to calling him fat, broke, and any other thing he could latch onto. The host Myron tried to corral this guy many times, but he couldn't help himself. Wes prior to this was actually liked by the FNF audience, but the sentiment quickly flipped after Wes did this. Even that fan base had to reevaluate him. This guy is a bully and a deeply troubled man. He clearly learned nothing from prison and resorted to threatening to slap Andrew. For what? Not believing exactly what he thinks? My favorite part of all this is when Andrew lets him know subtly that he's packing heat.
You usually attack armed men in Florida?
And after that, it just so happens Wes took a seat and stopped with the threats. The rest of the show, just Wes using profanity and yelling over everyone. So much so that Rumble, who organized this event, told FNF to control their pitbull, because even a set like Rumble, which is free speech, whatever that means, they couldn't take the vitriol he was spewing. Ironically, Myron seems a lot more respectful asking guys to stop talking compared to the woman who he berates on his podcast. Just something to consider. Like I said before, fans were not feeling Wes anymore. He showed just how immature and out of touch he is.
Relax. This is one thing I don't like.
Wes,
it's people who lie. I thought this was like some real shit.
Wes, we gotta chill, man. We gotta chill.
Taking one look at the comments tells you all you need to know. This brings us to Wes's latest appearance on FNF. He's on the panel with the godfather of the manosphere, also known as Grandma Tomasi, Rolo Tomasi, and Michael Sartain, who I don't have any funny names for. But true to his usual style, Wes opened up the show not even 15 minutes into the stream, and he went in on the chat.
I mean, everybody knows Wes Watson. I mean, I built my YouTube channel fresh out of the penitentiary. Yeah, 500,000 subs. But what's more important than that, how many people I've helped by just not being a soft ass bitch like half the people in the comments.
The reason being is because, of course, he's unhinged, but two, he was very obviously reading the chat. His performance at the live event left such a bad taste in everyone's mouth that the hate for him carried over into his next appearance for FNF. For context, just compare the comments on his live stream to his first appearance. They're literally like night and day. The people in the first appearance comments didn't have much to go off of regarding Wes Watson, besides what came out of his mouth and how he portrayed himself. Now with this context of who he is as a person, the comments are so bad, I can't even show half of them. In an incredible twist of irony, Michael asks Wes about the philosophy Stoicism, the ideology centered around enduring pain without displaying feelings, emotions, or complaint. Yeah, that.
I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding what Stoicism is. Can you express how you use it?
I mean,
I literally just stayed so disciplined. Who the is gonna come out of prison? Like, not even live this life that everyone's living out here and make as much money as I did and rise to where I'm at today and still never break.
One eternity later.
So being stoic means you don't care about your feelings, you'll get the work done anyways.
Wes knew he couldn't even begin to answer that question, so he decided to say discipline equals stoicism. This podcast is filled to the brim with irony because while on a men's self-improvement podcast, Wes says this.
The reason I'm a good coach and I help people is because if someone says that they're suicide or they're gonna take their own life, or if someone, I tell people in my group all the time, if you died in front of me, I'd step on the back of your fucking head and walk over you into the gym and handle the rest of my fucking day. And that's the thing, everyone's so weak, they give a shit.
Rolo and Myron always hide behind "I'm saving men's lives," yet they co-sign this. Just one more reason Wes's coaching calls should be avoided at all costs. Throughout the stream, he's taking subtle jabs at Wilson. At one point, even saying we need to stop addressing the masses of idiots, aka Andrew and the chat roasting. But then he proceeds to address the masses of idiots endlessly.
The thing is, we all kind of just address the masses of idiots too much, and that's what they want. They'll go from like being straight fat till like skin vein ripped like a mother. I bet you it probably hurts all these little bitches in the chat.
Now, stepping away from Wes's public meltdowns, let's take a look at his private melt. This one is a bit heavier, but his ex-wife alleges that he gave her a case of the beats while they were married. Color me surprised.
You mentioned, publicly that there was a lot of abuse in your marriage, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak on that until legally things calm down. But there's definitely a lot to talk about.
The interviewer goes on to say something very illuminating.
But I was disappointed to see that, because the Wes, that the public persona of him was that he's a learned man, he's an evolved man, but I guess anger got the best of him, and unfortunately some abuse occurred, and it's sad.
He says that he was disappointed because his public persona is that he's a learned man who saw the error in his ways and now just wants to help people. I mean, that's possible, but that's not the case for Wes. And this is a microcosm of the bigger issue. Everyone's just basing this off of what he said himself. It's only until people dig into these guys' background and what they actually do and not just their words, then we look back in retrospect and say, wow, it's obvious. We should have all known. How could we have looked over this? And well, it's because we have people who platform these guys irresponsibly, for one, and bad actors like Wes who are always trying to hold on to the credibility of others who are hosting them. People just don't fact check. I'm not saying this is 100% confirmed. I haven't seen any documents, so I can't say. But I will say this. I wouldn't be clutching my pearls at the idea of Wes Watson beating the brakes off his girl. I'll look over people who fell for his prison stories and all that because there's nothing really at stake. But it will forever remain a mystery to me how people will still purchase his courses and support him now. The sentiment has no doubt changed, evident in the fact that the comments favoring him in his own subreddit are not just few and far between, but they get downvoted straight to hell. But still, there are people defending him. For example, this guy.
So I got the $3 grand together. I put down 1,000 cash, and I took out 2 new credit cards, and I put down 1,000 on each credit card, and that's how I got in. He was very responsive. I signed up. He answered me. He collected the funds. He put me on the schedule. He ran me through all the apps. He set me up. I bought business coaching, and he gave me all of his personal training included with that for free if I wanted any of it, which I thought was pretty cool.
To me, it seems there's a pattern of Wes preying on people who should be saving and investing all the money they have, not spending it to fulfill a degradation king. I mean, for God's sake, the guy had to open new credit cards to pay to get yelled at. It's clear he's not in the best financial position, and his money would have been better spent put towards his business, his interests, a shirt, literally anything other than what he spent it on. Another pattern that I'm recognizing is the fact that all these guys who are paying for his business calls have nothing to show for it except, I guess, in this case, $2,000 in credit card debt. Yet some still turn around and say this.
I have to be honest. I got what I paid for and what I played for. I did not get scammed. I got coached. The man is not a con artist. You might not have what it takes to run his program. That's not his f***ing problem.
He does have a point. He paid to get yelled at, and that's all he got. He's exhibit A of what this course gives you, and that's realizing you don't want to be anything like Wes in a lower bank balance. So you're saying this is a success story, and in the same breath, you told me I paid to get yelled at, and I got it. And I also realized in the end, I don't want to be him. Oh, and the price was $3,000. And then I'm supposed to look at you and not think you got robbed blind. Not happening. One key way to know if someone is fake is if other successful people are disavowing them, and they're only co-signed by people with questionable ethics at best. And by successful, I don't mean Walter Weeks. I mean genuinely successful people who got successful through business or something along those lines. They have a certain decorum about them. And just like real kingpins who went to prison, they can spot a faker. Mark Shapiro, a titan in the real estate investing industry, hilariously called out Wes Watson, who compared to him is like a glow bug to the sun, exposing Watson as the obvious fraud he is.
You live in the Brickell house. It's not the most expensive penthouse
in downtown Miami. It's actually not even on the water. So I don't even know what you're talking about. And then now you're the self-proclaimed most legendary guy in Miami? Well, what about the Moss family? And what about George Perez?
Like I said in my prior video, these guys prey on the desperate and needy. Whether it's a pickup artist, a finance guru, anything. They're gonna exaggerate their success or they're gonna outright lie. They're never gonna give you a realistic expectation because that hurts their bottom line. Wes knows his target demographic are guys with $3K to spare, and he doesn't mind taking all their money and their dignity. As you can see, by the time you're hyped up enough over the thought of escaping your financial position and getting FU money like Wes has, when you don't get those results, you're gonna gaslight yourself into believing not just that you got something of value, but that you were the problem. If you need motivation to start a fitness routine, look elsewhere and realize motivation is temporary. Discipline is what makes you go to the gym every day, even if you're at a plateau, even if you're not seeing results. Wes Watson screaming at you won't be the deciding factor. If you need help with your business idea or coaching consultation, again, go elsewhere. Wes's terrible PR alone is enough to show you he's not who you should be looking to for business, let alone at that price point. Wes often says, if I can't look at you and want to be you, then I won't take your advice.
When someone writes a book, I turn it around and say, do I want to be like this? And like, there is no way half the authors that people speak about I even want to be remotely like. So that was a big reason why I had to write a book. And I probably sold more copies than some of these motherfuckers. Not Robert Greene though.
Interestingly enough, this is the one piece of advice Wes gives that I can get behind. I don't want to be like Wes at all. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe for more videos just like this. And here's a video of mine YouTube thinks you'll like. Peace out.